Let me take this to Dr. Priyam. Of course, it's disputable and debatable whether Dr. Manmohan Singh was any less impactful on the global stage, even with his more self-effacing personality, than the Prime Minister today is in his much more flamboyant personality. I think the point I'm trying to make is you can have different kinds of personalities, but still have big impact, and to each his own, and both have furthered the India story in their own way. And that is what I think we as Indians should be concerned with. But I think you raise a very important point about the Congress and Dr. Manmohan Singh's legacy. And here I want to bring in Dr. Manisha Priyam, because, whether it's a Montek Singh Ahluwalia or others, there is no doubt that when Rahul Gandhi famously tore up an ordinance that was meant to protect Lalu Prasad Yadav, a decision taken at a meeting where Rahul Gandhi's own mother had signed off on that decision. And I remember this so well because it was Dr. Manmohan Singh's last trip to America, last foreign trip. And he did this, Dr. Priyam, while Dr. Manmohan Singh was abroad. It has now been revealed that Rahul Gandhi has subsequently apologized to Dr. Manmohan Singh in private. But critics of the Congress will keep saying the Congress never respected Dr. Manmohan Singh. The Gandhis were the real power behind the throne. That disrespect to Dr. Manmohan Singh didn't just start with the opposition or the media, it started from within the Congress party. How do you look back at this, especially contextualized in today's ugly fight over his last rites?
So look at the long question you have. I'd like to parse this into two or three clear positions. One is Dr. Manmohan Singh's role in India's history, and I would say Dr. Manmohan Singh's role in India's economic history. And the time when the Congress party was the leader of a one-party dominant system, very common in third world countries, led by a Nehruvian model of non-alignment, one way of how India would engage with the world on its own terms. Now look at the fact that under Dr. Manmohan Singh, you make a clear and sharp U-turn. You debunk that. When he does that, by the time the USSR has fallen, there is a Gorbachev who's already done restructuring, perestroika, and openness. We did not lack in openness. Our democracy was and continues to be robust. But what we lacked was really the ambassador model, the fact that nationalization was all along. Now, the fact that Manmohan Singh actually took away the steel type structures of nationalization without ever politically lambasting the Congress or Indira Gandhi or political figure for it. Much of what the Congress had been, lambasted for politically, the fact that there had been riots against the Sikhs, Dr. Manmohan Singh was also a face who was allowing the Congress in a way to atone for the sins of 1984. And I would, of course, bring, to book the fact that India's economic history was something that he rewrote, and he rewrote it not just for us, but for the world. He put India on a map where India can say that we are, or we can even compete with China. Now that brings to the book the name that you took, Montek Singh Ahluwalia, in the 70s at Oxford. Richard Jolly and others, along with Montek Singh, were writing papers that was saying that poverty needs to be put first. A lot of people before me have said, oh, Dr. Manmohan Singh was a technocrat, maybe not a mass leader. Remember, a mass leader is not just made by populist appeals. Here was a man who realized that the state system needs to be focused on redistribution. And it was Montek Singh Ahluwalia's papers with Richard Jolly and Singer and others that lead the World Bank to what is now known as the McNamara Revolution. The World Bank earlier built bridges and railways, etc., infrastructure. It believes, therefore, that we need a more humane world. We need a world where poverty removal becomes the focus. And remember, Manmohan Singh's ideas are being critiqued but backed also by someone called Amartya Sen. A whole revolution takes place in international development where human development becomes center stage. And Manmohan Singh quietly puts the pen. Where in the world have you seen a non-violent revolution without building oligarchs that leads to an opening up of Indian economy? By the stroke of a pen, decisions were taken that open up and liberalize. Do not forget those rigmaroles at the customs where your relatives and people, officers would be snatching America-made pens, cutlery, utensils. Now we became a globalized nation without losing the face that we had for India. We are a poor country. We are trying to progress. Before I conclude, let me also tell you one of his most important roles was as the chairperson of the UGC. Few people would know that this man burning the midnight oil gave us a model where a small Guru Nanak Dev University today almost competes with the best in the world. Those of us who have heard of the Thapar Engineering College, the Punjabis who are known more for the industriousness and their business orientation, got some of their world-class institutions because of the way in which he persevered with the small of the architectonic and state-led restructuring is what
Yeah.
Manmohan Singh was as a political leader. You want to call him a mass leader? I would certainly call him a mass leader. The fact that all of us have leather chappals rather than Hawaii chappals on our feet, I think that is the Manmohan revolution. Without building oligarchs, without stashing away money in foreign havens, a liberal democratic revolution to a path of economic liberalization. That's Dr. Manmohan Singh for us.
Okay, that's a very interesting idea to take forward to Shubhrastha, which is that how do you define who's a mass leader? Manmohan Singh contested one Lok Sabha election in his entire political career, and he lost that. There are some views that he was sabotaged from within the Congress party, and that debate will carry on for people like Rasheed to document in their next book, if they haven't already done so. But Dr. Priyam raises a very interesting question. Is a mass leader defined only by elections? Is it defined by a certain in your face charisma? Because Manmohan Singh in many ways was a counterfoil personality to not just to Prime Minister Modi, but also to an Indira Gandhi, right? Even to other leaders within his own party. So this is not a BJP Congress argument. But I think what Dr. Priyam is arguing is that the structural impact that he had on India was that of a mass leader. And that has to be acknowledged. And today the Congress is saying, oh, the BJP has failed to recognize or honor Dr. Singh's moment in history. And Congress critics are saying, but you never did it either.
So, Barkha, I rarely disagree with Manisha ji, and I completely agree with her on the larger argument that she's making. But on the terminology of a mass leader, I disagree with her a bit. Look, one cannot take away the fact that Dr. Manmohan Singh was one of the best economic minds that India has had. And everything that Dr. Manisha talked about, or even when Sandip ji was talking about, all of those achievements are there for history to judge him. As youngsters, we remember those days also, and I think it's completely undebatable. Let's keep that out of the picture. Now, on the criticism that the BJP continues to sort of embark on the Congress party, and also a section keeps talking about the misses of Dr. Manmohan Singh as well. I think today is not the day to actually discuss that, because we all come from a culture where we spare the deceased. However, if one were to look at his tenure objectively, of course, there were a lot of hits that Manmohan Singh ji gave. And why I disagree with him being a mass leader is because as a mass leader, he was also supposed to address some of the key questions that most of the leaders even today fail to address. For example, Muzaffarnagar riots happened during his time. He was rarely out in the media discussing that. Again, one wouldn't want to go down the route of why Manmohan Singh was, while he was a very quiet and a silent personality, but he did a lot of those things. However, let's be objective and say that there was a Manmohan Singh moment that India had, which was absolutely necessary. Today, there is a Modi moment that India has, which is absolutely necessary too. And why compare the two? At the end of the day, say 50 years down the line, we are going to look back on Manmohan era with a lot of fondness, and same goes for Mr. Modi, because at the end of the day, both of them are working for the nation in their own rise. If today we are able to talk about the corporate India with such vigor, it is thanks to Dr. Manmohan Singh. And this has nothing to do with his prime ministership, by the way. This has to do a lot with what he had done in the past as finance minister as well. Definitely, he was an intellectual leader. People like us who would want to see a lot of intellectual blood in politics get really, pumped up with the idea of a lot of Manmohan Singhs in the country rising up to the occasion. So, of course, that is this day is also a day where we should venerate that kind of an intellectual leadership as well. So just on that point of a mass leadership, yes, he did a lot for the masses. There is there's no doubt about that. Some of the policies that came out of Manmohan Singhji's time are policies that are going to continue with the India story for a really, really long time. But I would hold my thoughts on calling him a mass leader. And
Yeah.
I would want to submit, Barkha, that not everybody needs to please the masses. Sometimes in at testing situations, you need
Yeah.
to take decisions which are not palatable to the masses but might benefit the masses in the long run. If we go back to the time when Manmohan Singh was the finance minister, I'm sure the kind of criticism that would have come from within the ranks, not just within the Congress party, but the ideological atmosphere that India has had, would have been humongous.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rasheed, I think Pratap Bhanu Mehta called it the furies of populism. Separately, I was saying that we have to remember that Dr. Manmohan Singh's second term, while of course there will continue to be debates over whether he was too silent, the corruption scandals that seem to dominate the headlines every day. It also coincided with the rise of an extremely populist India against corruption, not yet the Aam Aadmi Party. It also coincided with the explosion of multiple private news channels who were what I call noisily populist, determining who was good and who was bad, who was honest and who was dishonest. But my question is this. We can have an academic discussion. Was he a mass leader? Was he not a mass leader? We all agree that he had a deep impact on India. I think there are no two ways about that. But that he did not get his due, which is something obviously he believed, whether it is when he's reciting Iqbal and Sushma Swaraj is laughing in parliament, or whether it's when he's saying history will be kinder to me. He always felt that he was vilified by the media, by the opposition, and perhaps he felt that he was not fully treated right by his own party. So when Sandip quotes this comment that the Congress can't own Manmohan Singh while disowning Narasimha Rao, what would you say?
I think, Barkha, over the years that we have had, the kind of politics we have had since 2014, we tend to gloss over the past in the sense of what is intra-party democracy or intra-party developments that have taken place. Since you've credited me with this knowing of a thing or two about the Congress, I can go on saying how Nehru faced a lot of internal challenges even as Prime Minister, from Pushpendra Das Tandon, from various groups and leaders, and so was Indira Gandhi with the regional satraps and Rajiv Gandhi. You saw, Barkha, a lot of it. It is only that 2014 onwards we see the ruling party. There is a sort of silence, and a complete silence and complete submission to a leader. Manmohan Singh, to my mind, was a very successful politician. There were 4 prime ministers where he worked as a technocrat under Charan Singh, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, and Chandrasekhar. Imagine he was the chief economic advisor to Chandrasekhar when Narasimha Rao appoints him as finance minister. Sitaram Kesri ji, a person of very different kind of background, appoints him as a member of Congress Working Committee. Before that, Manmohan Singh was there as a virtue of a cabinet minister, but not as a politician. Sonia Gandhi appoints him as a prime minister. Now you have, these kind of 7 characters who are very, very diverse, and Manmohan Singh remains a very, favorite person, and he gets best of it. You look at life and times of Arjun Singh, Pranab Mukherjee, Sharad Pawar, not to talk of likes of Shivraj Patil and several others. They were all had a dying, ambition to become prime minister. They could not. Manmohan Singh did become. Now you're talking about him being insulted. There was no insult. First of all, I want to, with due respect, I want to clarify, and because it's very well documented, Rahul did not do that ordinance. You have that footage. There is nowhere. The footage that is shown is in public meeting, and he's carrying a party manifesto of a political party.
But he is metaphorically, I should be accurate,
and
he
what
is
was
metaphorically
that,
tearing an ordinance, not the actual ordinance.
But I have a benefit of having conversation with Dr. Manmohan Singh in September itself. This year September and earlier on all these things when he was out of power. See, what was the issue? The ordinance was that people who are being convicted by law, they should not be allowed to contest. Now there was a pressure from Lalu Yadav and several other allies and within the Congress that there should be an ordinance so that to protect them. Was that a kind of a very dear piece of legislation for Dr. Manmohan Singh? The answer is no. So whatever Rahul Gandhi did, in whichever way he did, was actually, end of the day, it benefited Manmohan Singh. And of course, it was very public that Rahul Gandhi had gone and apologized the manner in which it was done. So it's not something it is hidden. See, Barkha, we must remember, which I mean, I have written in one of the obits I wrote about Manmohan Singh. Manmohan Singh's, when Manmohan Singh was leaving World Bank and to come to India and work for Government of India, his professor was, or his superior was very sort of surprised. He says, "Don't you think it is very foolish?" And then he paused. I mean, Manmohan Singh, of course, didn't respond. Then what did the professor say? He says, sometimes it is wise to be foolish. Manmohan Singh, within Congress, in the context of Pranab Mukherjee and that kind of battle of supremacy that, Arjun Singh and several others had unleashed, see, he was a very successful politician. And that is where I'm saying we can go on talking about his economic. See, of course, he faced challenges within Congress, but he was, he always put his self-respect and self-pride at stake to get that concession out. And we saw a nuclear deal. We saw it, during the Harshad Mehta scandal, where he had resigned. Several occasions, 5-6 occasions, he had resigned as a finance minister, and as a prime minister, he contemplated. But he used it very judiciously. He didn't go the wayside,
so you
like
believe
Hemati Bhagna and others. So he was a politician among politicians. And Barkha, we must, we tend to ignore his politics. And of course, the kind of respect that he gained. See, Sonia Gandhi was in awe of him, not the other way around. See, none of his family members, 3 daughters, 3 son-in-laws, grandchildren, you show me one picture of Mrs. Gurcharan Kaur or any of this family member going and wishing Sonia Gandhi on her birthday. I mean, this is a very social location. Nothing of this was not like Gandhi Jal Singh, who became president. He said, "I'll sweep floor if Indira Gandhi asked me to." So Manmohan Singh maintained his dignity, self-respect, and all that, and that is why we have a lot of respect for him.
I think that last point is a very interesting point, Sandip, that certainly Manmohan Singh's family displayed no sycophancy vis-a-vis the Gandhis. And I think that point must be acknowledged. They also didn't brandish any sort of importance or VIP privileges for being Dr. Singh's family. All 3 of his daughters are professionals in different fields. And all of that has to be, of course, acknowledged. But the idea of Manmohan Singh as a consummate politician is a very interesting one. Whether we agree or not on the mass leader, how do you define a mass leader? The nuclear deal moment. And, in many ways, it's quite interesting. There are 2 or 3 things that the Modi government has gone big with in picking up where the Congress left off. The Indo-US relationship, Aadhaar and digitization. These are things that were birthed in some ways by Manmohan Singh. But Rasheed makes the interesting point about that Indo-US nuclear deal. He was stubborn. He was willing to lose his government on it. Sonia Gandhi was not a fan of the deal. It was purely Manmohan Singh. He had to face a confidence motion. He had to get the support of, parties, smaller regional parties, and he did that. It wasn't the Gandhis who did it for him.
And the BJP and left came together. And the BJP and left came together to vote against him.
Barkha, I'm a bit lost as to what we are arguing about here. I don't think there is, any disagreement on most issues. I would only paraphrase. Rasheed said, Manmohan Singh, politicians. I have written, stealing the phrase used about Gandhi. I said whether Manmohan Singh was a politician among bureaucrats or a bureaucrat among politicians is something which that is what posterity will decide. But that apart, I have said that somebody who has been a prime minister for 10 years, in whatever capacity, he has held the thing, it's no mean achievement. And before that, the whole string of other positions, including the finance minister, RBI governorship, etc., etc. Manisha Priyam cited about UGC, somewhere else I was reading, ISRO, and whole host of things. That's fantastic. And the point I think which we are debating is that whether, and each prime minister, nobody's history will be spotless. There are strengths, there are weaknesses, there are mistakes, hits and misses, and whichever way you want to call it. Nobody has an absolutely perfect slate. So whether it's Indira Gandhi, Nehru, or anyone, the question arises whether by not assigning a place for them, for the funeral, whether that is a disrespect you're making or not. That's the question which we are debating. And that's when I'm saying Manmohan Singh is used as a convenient, either a target or somebody uses his shoulders to fire on the others to settle political points. And that is, to some extent, I think that is the real disrespect to his legacy. If people, it's like, as I told you, an organization like Tata's may not give somebody who was, say, Rusi Modi or somebody that the same status as one of the Tatas, but he will be given. The Rusi Modi is not the correct example, but there would be people who would be given that status because if they've built one institution, organization, or whatever, they're given their due respect. But Congress has done that very selectively. In case of even with Manmohan Singh, may or may not, Rasheed, that's a debatable point. But today, it's certainly debatable. Somebody may argue even Manmohan Singh has not given due credit to Narasimha Rao. He couldn't have done what he did as a finance minister without Narasimha Rao's support. Okay, those are separate issues. I'm keeping all of them aside. His has been a stellar career by any standards, whether you talk of global or national or anything. It's a fantastic life, fantastic career. He deserves all the respects, all the gun salutes and everything from us. But to make it a point as whether because his funeral was happening in Nigambod Ghat instead of somewhere along the lines of Rajghat, is not there. Does it take away from any of his greatness? Can it be seen as an insult? You mentioned Pranab Mukherjee, etc. I wouldn't, try to compare, but Pranab Mukherjee's case is also there. Sharmishta has tweeted again today to say that why even a CWC was not called for him, and they said they don't call it for the president, whereas a CWC was called for K.R. Narayanan. So the Congress is very, very selective and picky about whom they want to respect, how much they want to respect. The fact which you said, because Manmohan Singh didn't aspire to be prime minister, he became easy, whereas Pranab Mukherjee or somebody else seemed to be having that ambition, so they were treated differently. We shouldn't get into that. We as citizens, I think all of us individually respect him for what he was, what he has done. Everybody's legacy is mixed. There's everybody doesn't do all the right things at the right time. That's all there.
I think that's correct. That nobody is either a saint or a demon, and anybody who has spent 10 years in government is of course going to contribute to the evolution of the country. Before I come to Dr. Priyam, Rasheed, very quickly, you had an interjection.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one point. Actually, Barkha, a lot of comparison is thought to be made between P.V. Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh. P.V. Narasimha Rao, let's face it, Barkha, he was a maverick. He played politics with Sonia Gandhi, with the internal Congress, and therefore his stock, so to say, fell particularly after 1996 defeat. This is not to justify what he put. Now, I want to tell you something which is very interesting, which some of you may find very interesting. Actually, Manmohan Singh was a beneficiary because Narasimha Rao experiment failed, because Sonia Gandhi, when after Rajiv Gandhi assassination, circumstances and all, because P.V. Narasimha Rao was brought on the basis of some kind of trust and faith, and he failed and faltered, or he could not live up to it. So Sonia Gandhi lost faith in all sort of full-time politicians, and she chose Manmohan Singh over Pranab Mukherjee, Arjun Singh, Shivraj Patel, and the rest. So he was actually a beneficiary. If P.V. Narasimha Rao had not done this kind of politics within the Congress and with 10 Janpath, Manmohan Singh would not have arrived at the chair of Prime Minister.